Well, we first noticed the activity on the Petrocan Shell Park Trail in September of 2008, when some heavy machinery came rumbling down the trail, digging up a wide swath of the natural grass trail. And that's when we found out that they were going to, the town was going to implement a 3-meter wide paved trail from Rebecca down to Lakeshore Road.
I got a phone call one day from a neighbor who lived close to Shell Park in Bronte. And what was happening in Shell Park was bulldozers had moved in and a trail had started to be made behind this person's house in the Shell Park area. And the neighbors were quite upset about this. They loved this little bit of natural area that was left in their neighborhood, and they didn't want to see a paved path there. And in fact, neighbors had gone out and stood in front of the bulldozers, confronted the people who were doing the work, and said, "Why are you doing this? We don't want this." And they had started calling around to see who could help. Somebody had given this man my name, and so I started talking to him about it.
People were unaware that there was going to be this paved pathway until we saw the equipment starting to work and dig up the area that would be paved. My wife and I, Beth and I, were perhaps one of the first to become aware of this. We contacted the town to find out what was happening, and that's when we became aware of the planned paved pathway. Fast forwarding a little bit, we made contact with Oakvillegreen Conservation Association, and they quickly became involved or joined the battle, if you like, and likewise other groups such as the Bronte Village Residents Association. So very, very quickly, and also I should mention the immediate community, those residents who back onto the Shell Park and the Petrocan corridor.
What ended up happening because of the citizens' actions and their contact with their local councillors is that the work was stopped. But it was all part of a greater plan by the town parks department to put paved trails in all corners of the community. And so it was only temporarily stopped. We had to find a way to ensure that that area would never be paved.
There's two ways of looking at why people were opposed to the planned paved pathway. One, the community as a whole enjoys this area, the woodlands, the natural trail that runs through this area behind Shell Park and up what's called the Petrocan corridor. But there are also those who enjoy it from a nature point of view, i.e. the bird watchers. This area is a Carolinian forest. It's one of a few areas, diminishing areas within Oakville, of a mixed or varied woodland, and it's a very important migratory bird stop-off in both the spring and fall migration, as the birds come across Lake Ontario in the spring or heading south in the fall. And this is their stop-off, their resting spot, if you like, to refuel before the long journey across the lake.
The reason that area was so critical is because it was a migratory bird layover area. And so what happens is small warblers and songbirds fly across Lake Ontario during their migration. A lot of them are coming across right at Oakville. And the reason they come across there is because it's a pretty narrow part of the lake. But no matter how narrow that may be, it's still a huge, enormous expanse of water for a very small bird to cross. And they get exhausted as they're making that flight. And when they get to the other side, they need to stop immediately and rest and eat. Unfortunately, we've paved over most of the areas in that part of Bronte. We've built residences, we've built roads, we've built manicured park space. There is virtually nowhere left for them to land. So this little piece of land where this paved pathway was going in looked insignificant to people. It was a little grassed over area. There was a fringe of Carolinian forest that nobody had gotten around to cutting down yet, but it really wasn't anything really. It didn't look like anything to humans, but to the birds it was an absolutely critical place where they could land and rest and eat.
The thinking was that there would be a demand or a need for a multi-use paved pathway, not only for pedestrians but bicyclists, skateboards, inline skaters, and etc. In theory, it sounded good. In reality, it was a bad idea.
And so, when we realized the significance of this area, we joined with the neighborhood residents to fight the town's plan to put the paved pathway through. And we had bird studies that had been done because of some of the developments that happened in Bronte that showed the migration, had infrared images of the millions of birds that were coming through. And we also had the naturalist groups, the bird watchers, who had documented the number of species that came through and the volume of birds that came through. So we knew how absolutely critical the area was. You would think it would have been pretty simple to just say, it can't go here, but it doesn't work that way. So it was part of a much larger plan, and the whole thing had to be kind of tackled as one thing. We did a lot of things. We worked with the residents. The residents were great. They organized a public meeting. They created their own presentations. A guy named John McMullen, who is now on the Oakvillegreen board, was one of the leaders of the residents, and he did a fantastic job in organizing everyone and getting the politicians on board. We put all that evidence together, and we got an agreement to permanently get rid of what they already had built, and an agreement not to ever build another paved pathway there. So it's now been returned to its natural state.
When people did become aware of the project, a large number of people became involved very quickly, and we started opposing the project with the town, and that led to a process of meetings with the councillors and then delegations or presentations to Community Service Committee at town and then subsequently to town council. Now we're into early 2009, and I think pure and simply town became aware that this was not a popular project or a popular decision. It became very evident that a large number of people were opposed to it, and subsequently the town decided to cancel the project, even though it was far progressed, and revert the area to its previous natural state.